There's a plant in your yard right now that quietly beat kale, spinach, and every other vegetable in a real government study. It scored a flat 100. Kale got 49. But you probably spray it with weed killer every summer because nobody told you these 15 weeds choking your lawn were once food that kings, emperors, and gods got fed.
During World War II, Germany invaded Greece. Food was rationed. There was famine. My father and his entire family survived by eating this. This is pigweed, also known as purslane. Is it some kind of super miracle food? And if it is, how come it's not more popular?
Common weed number 15 is one you already know, the dandelion. You know the yellow flower kids pick and blow on. Turns out the whole thing is food, the leaves, the roots, even the flower. Those green leaves carry more vitamin K than almost anything in your fridge, plus twice the iron of spinach. People roast the roots into a coffee and fry the flowers into fritters. Walk into a health food store and you'll see dandelion greens sitting there with a price tag, while the exact same plant grows free in your yard and you poison it. The colonists thought so highly of it that they carried the seeds across the ocean on purpose, just to have it in the New World. Its name even comes from the old French words dents de lion, meaning lion's tooth, named for the jagged teeth along its leaves. That very first weed on our countdown was once worth a whole boat trip across the sea. But the next one's even sneakier, because it hides inside a name you already know for a totally different food. Common weed number 14 hides in every sidewalk crack, the plantain. And no, this has nothing to do with the banana.
This is a plantain plant, and it's probably a weed that you thought nothing of and just stepped over every single day, but it's actually packed with anti-inflammatory and soothing compounds. When anyone in our house gets a bug bite, skin rash, or any kind of irritation, the first thing we do is grab some of these leaves. We then crush them up and we put them on the skin. After that, we just leave it on the skin with a bandage over it, and then probably about an hour or two later, we take it off, and it's helped heal so much.
This is the flat little weed with wide-ribbed leaves that pops up between paving stones and in every school field. Crush a leaf, press it on a bee sting or a cut, and it pulls the pain right out. Soldiers and Native Americans used it as a bandage for hundreds of years, so reliably that tribes called it white man's footprint, since it grew wherever settlers walked. The young leaves go straight into your salad. Its seeds are a fiber so good that its plant cousin is the one they grind up for the fiber powder pharmacies still sell today. You've walked over free medicine your whole life. However, this next weed is so plain and so common that you've probably ripped it out with your bare hands and never once guessed you were holding a salad. Common weed number 13 is that soft green carpet, the chickweed. It's a low, soft, tangled green with tiny white star flowers, and it shows up in cool weather all over the world.
Chickweed Stellaria media is a multi-purpose herb that's on our farm, and we toss it in salads, and it's one of our chickens' favorite treats that they get from the garden. Chickweed is pretty easy to identify. It has hairs running down one side of the stem, and then it changes sides once it hits the leaf node. It'll have little white flowers. There's 5 petals that are deeply cleft, almost looking like there's 10 petals.
The taste is mild and fresh, a little like corn silk, and people have tossed it into salads and sandwiches for centuries. Old country folk ate it every spring to wake their body up after a long winter, and it's loaded with vitamin C. Fancy restaurants now plate it as a delicate microgreen and charge you for the pleasure. The birds love it so much that the name literally comes from how chickens go crazy for it. That stuff you rake out of the flower bed is now sitting on a chef's tasting menu. You're literally throwing away what someone else is quietly selling. But the one after this has a tangy kick that comes with one small catch you'll want to know. Common weed number 12 has a sharp, sour bite, the curly dock. You'll spot it by the tall stalk that turns rusty brown and the leaves with crinkled, curly edges.
They call it curly dock because it's got curly-edged leaves. The leaves are very, very wavy on the edges. And the dock part comes from the root. The root's got a tap root, kind of like a carrot. And it refers to the fact that it's still done today, but going back in time, a lot of dog breeds had their tails docked. So they removed the tail at the base. You know, like a Doberman Pinscher has just a little stub. They don't come like that naturally. The tail gets amputated and pinched off, and that's how they do that. It's called tail docking.
The young leaves taste lemony and tart, and they're packed with vitamin A and vitamin C. Pioneers boiled them like greens and ground the brown seeds into a rough flour when food ran short. There's one small catch, though. The leaves hold a natural acid, the same stuff that's in spinach, so you cook them down and don't live on giant bowls of the raw ones. Do it right, and it's a free, tangy green that wilts in the pan like spinach with a citrus twist. A plant you thought was roadside junk was once survival food through real famines. However, the next weed's so sour and lemony that kids used to suck on it like candy. Common weed number 11 looks like clover, but it's wood sorrel. Look for the little heart-shaped leaves in sets of 3 and the tiny yellow flowers. People mix it up with clover all the time, but one bite tells the truth because wood sorrel tastes sharp and lemony and clover doesn't.
We are looking at wood sorrel. It's often mistaken for clover. Let's talk about the differences. It has 3 leaves that are shaped like hearts. Check out this little tidbit. The leaves fold downward at night. Hey, like you're going to sleep. Give it a nibble. It's got a lemony taste. Ooh, yeah. That's the tart oxalic acid that's in the leaves. It's not a problem at all in small amounts. You'll enjoy it.
It's stuffed with vitamin C, the exact thing sailors needed to dodge scurvy on long trips, back when a lack of it could wipe out a whole crew. Kids for generations have picked it and sucked the sour juice like wild candy. It carries that same natural acid as spinach, so a handful is a treat, not a whole dinner. A tiny lawnweed holds the same vitamin that kept sailors alive at sea. But the next one straight up beats the bagged greens you buy at the store. Common weed number 10 looks like weak spinach, but it's lamb's quarters. You'll know it by the dusty white powder on the top leaves, like someone shook flour over the plant. It's a cousin of quinoa, and it quietly beats regular spinach on calcium and vitamins. Farmers hate it because it takes over their fields, but half the world has been eating it forever. In India, they cook it into dishes and call it bathua. In Mexico, it's a green called quilite. Ancient people in Europe ate the tiny seeds as grain thousands of years before wheat took over, and those seeds turn up inside preserved ancient bodies. So while you're pulling it out of your tomato bed, a family somewhere is putting the same plant on the table on purpose. However, coming up is the weed that chefs actually go hunting for. Common weed number 9 smells like garlic, and it's garlic mustard.
This is garlic mustard. It's common, it's edible, and it's invasive. Now let's talk about how to identify it. You have alternating branches up the primary stem. The leaves themselves are really serrated on the edge, and they're very triangular. Look at the flowers on an individual basis. Each one of those has 4 petals. And one last confirmation piece, if you take a leaf and crush it up, smell it, has that strong garlicky smell for sure.
Crush a leaf of this one, and it smells exactly like garlic, even though it isn't related to garlic at all. It spreads so fast through forests that whole volunteer crews spend their weekends ripping it out of the woods. And the twist is that it tastes amazing. The leaves blend into a free wild pesto, and chefs who forage toss it into sauces and salads for a peppery, garlicky punch. Europeans used it as a seasoning long before it ever crossed the ocean and became a pest. So the plant that park rangers beg people to pull is the same one a good chef would happily plate for you. But this next one isn't just a snack. Rich people pay a fortune for its tamed cousins, and it even turns into coffee. Common weed number 8 is that blue roadside flower, the chicory. Those pretty sky blue flowers on stiff stalks along the highway aren't just decoration. Dig up the root, roast it, grind it, and you get a coffee with no caffeine that people have sipped for centuries. New Orleans built a whole coffee style on it, and during shortages, it kept entire cities going.
The Cherokee used the root as a tea for liver issues, upset stomach, and blood cleansing. The Ojibwe applied crushed leaves to treat swelling and inflammation. The Iroquois used it to treat jaundice as a general tonic. As far as modern uses, early settlers and Civil War soldiers roasted the roots to make a caffeine-free coffee substitute, and it's still used in Louisiana today.
In that same government study that ranked these plants, chicory landed a strong 73 out of 100 for nutrition. And get this, the bitter salad leaves you pay serious money for, radicchio and endive with their fancy names, are just chicory that farmers tamed. So the weed in the ditch and the pricey salad leaf are the exact same family. You've been paying real cash for a cousin of a roadside weed. However, the next weed ties straight to a candy you've eaten your entire life. Common weed number 7 hides in a campfire treat, the mallow. You've seen it, that low weed with round leaves like little green fans and tiny flat seed pods kids call cheeses. It's soft, mild, and completely edible, leaves and all. This is where it gets fun. Its close cousin, a plant called marshmallow, is where the marshmallow got its name and its very first recipe.
Marshmallow is actually a plant. Now, most of the marshmallow you buy from the store today does not come from this plant. It comes from sugary mixes and doesn't even taste like this plant actually tastes. Ancient Egyptians, Greeks, Romans, and even 19th century Europe used this plant as medicine. That's right, marshmallows used to be used medicinally, treating sore throats, coughs, digestive issues, skin wounds, heartburn, minor burns, and even urinary tract infections. Essentially treating anything having to do with throat, stomach, bladder, or skin. The root was generally ground up and sifted and mixed with honey, then also mixed with the extracted sap from its roots.
Thousands of years ago in ancient Egypt, people boiled that plant's root with honey into a sweet, and it was so prized they saved it for gods and royalty only. The white puffs you roast today share almost nothing with it now except the name and a whole lot of sugar. So a squishy campfire snack traces all the way back to a weed and a root the pharaohs guarded. But the next one's a single plant that can hand you food, water, and shelter all at once. Common weed number 6 is a supermarket in a swamp, the cattail. You know the tall reed with the brown fuzzy sausage on top that lines every pond and ditch. Almost every part of it feeds you. The white roots are starchy like a potato and packed with energy. Those young green shoots taste a bit like cucumber. And that yellow pollen up top works as a flour you can bake with.
I wanted to show you up close some features and adaptations that allow this plant to survive in this environment. One adaptation is that cattails have a rhizome stem. That's an underground stem that grows horizontally underground. And this rhizome can be home and food for different macro and invertebrates that live in the water, as well as ducks and other animals in the water too.
Grab that top while it's still young and green, and you can boil it and eat it right off the stalk like corn on the cob. Native tribes leaned on cattails so hard that one famous wild food expert flat out called it the supermarket of the swamp. Just be sure of what you grab, since a poisonous iris can copy its leaves, so you go by that brown seed head on top. In tough times, this reed kept whole communities from starving. That boring plant you paddle past is stuffed with food from root to tip, one weed that can feed you 3 different ways. However, the next weed fights back the second you try to grab it. Common weed number 5 stings your hand on purpose, the stinging nettle. Brush it with bare skin and it burns and bumps up like tiny needles got you, because that's basically what happened. Little hairs jab you and pump in a burning juice. But watch what happens next. Cook it or dry it for a few seconds and the sting vanishes completely, leaving one of the most loaded greens on the planet. Nettle beats most vegetables on iron and protein, and health stores sell nettle tea and nettle powder for real money. Poor families across Europe lived on nettle soup through brutal winters. In World War I, Germany got so short on cotton that they wove soldier uniforms out of nettle fiber. So a plant that stings you on contact turns into iron-rich food and even clothing. The weed that hurts the most might just be the most useful one out here. But the one coming up is a spiky little pest that ended up on dinner plates and stuck to your clothes. Common weed number 4 is a sticky burr you'll know, the burdock. You felt this one without knowing it. Those brown prickly burrs that latch onto your socks and your dog on a walk, that's burdock. A Swiss engineer looked at how those little hooks grip fur under a microscope, an idea that hit him back in 1941, and used it to invent Velcro. But the real prize sits underground. The long root, called gobo in Japan, is a normal paid vegetable sold in nearly every supermarket over there, sliced into stir-fries and simmered in soups. In Britain, they've turned it into a soda called Dandelion and Burdock for generations. It's loaded with fiber and was used in old medicine to clean the blood. So the annoying burr stuck to your jeans is a root vegetable people happily buy, and the reason your shoes have Velcro. However, the next weed was once so sacred that an entire empire tried to wipe it off the map. Common weed number 3 was worshipped, then banned, the amaranth. Gardeners curse it as pigweed and rip it out by the fistful. But this same plant was holy to the Aztecs, who called it huatli, and grew nearly 20,000 tons a year into their capital. They popped those tiny seeds like popcorn and shaped them into gods. When the Spanish conqueror Cortés took over, those rituals disturbed him so much that he banned the plant and ordered the hands cut off anyone caught growing it. People hid it in secret for 400 years to keep it alive. Today, NASA has studied it for space missions because the seed is a complete protein with every amino acid your body needs. A weed you yank from the flower bed survived a 500-year death sentence and outlasted the empire that tried to kill it. But the next one does something no other plant on Earth can pull off. Common weed number 2 beats fish at their own game, the purslane.
During World War II, Germany invaded Greece. Food was rationed. There was famine. My father and his entire family survived by eating this. This is pigweed, also known as purslane. Is it some kind of super miracle food? And if it is, how come it's not more popular?
This is the little plant with fat, rubbery leaves and reddish stems that crawls flat across your driveway cracks. It looks like nothing. But purslane packs more omega-3, the healthy fat everyone buys fish oil pills for, than any leafy green on Earth. That's around 300 to 400 milligrams in a single serving. It's even one of the only land plants that carries EPA, the fat you normally get only from fish and algae. The Romans ate it, and markets across the Mediterranean still sell it fresh today. That same omega-3 is linked to fewer heart attacks in big diet studies. So the sad little weed baking on your hot concrete quietly outmuscles salmon for the exact nutrient people pay for. However, that leaves just the mystery plant from the very start, the green that scored a perfect 100 and beat every vegetable on the shelf. Common weed number 1, the healthiest of them all, is watercress. Remember that plant from the very start that beat kale and spinach and everything else? This is your number 1. In that big study, watercress scored a flat 100 out of 100 for nutrition, a perfect mark, while kale, the star of every smoothie shop, crawled in at 49. It grows wild and free in clean, cool streams, this small, peppery green most people wade right past. The ancient Greeks and Romans ate it, and it's been prized for thousands of years. Now it sells as a fancy salad green with a high price tag stuck on it. So the single healthiest vegetable ever measured is a weed floating in a creek you'd never look twice at. Every plant on this whole countdown was food, medicine, or money long before we ever called it a weed. Next time you grab the weed killer, remember you might be spraying a superfood people pay real money for. Subscribe and go look at your own lawn a little differently.